Hello and welcome to the Scottish Roadscast, a podcast all about Scotland's roads, bridges and motorways. I'm John Hassel.
And I'm Stuart Beard.
Stuart, how are you?
Very well, John. How are you?
I'm very good on this sunny day. Whatever will we be talking about in this episode?
It's anniversary time again.
Oh, I like anniversary
time.
Yeah,
and funnily enough, 2023 has quite a few big anniversaries.
Yep.
But this is one I know that you will enjoy because this road, which is one of your favourites,
if not the favourite,
is turning 50. Do you know what it is?
Yes, I do.
It is the Clydeside Expressway in Glasgow.
The A814.
The A814, Glasgow's first proper post-war expressway.
And I agree with that. Yes.
Now, your involvement with the archive and the various things we've done over the years actually started with the Clydeside
You're right,
Expressway.
and which... When was this? About 10 years ago?
About a decade ago.
I believe it was the route I was particularly interested in when I made contact with you, and I came across what was Glasgow's motorways at the time, and I really wanted to research this, and I believe it's the first article I wrote.
First article you wrote, and one of the first articles that we actually put up on the very old website back in the day. So, you know, we do enjoy a big anniversary.
That was a trip down memory lane for some of our long-term fans or followers.
And the Clydeside Expressway turns 50 this week, 27th of April 1973. It was officially open to traffic. Those who follow us on social media will by now have seen that we've had a few posts celebrating the anniversary. But most importantly, we should mention the release of our new booklet marking the 50th anniversary. The latest in our anniversary series of booklets. I personally think it's the best one yet.
I think it's very, very good. Yeah. And the photos are fantastic.
Some stunning photos in there.
Do you know, can I also say, I think this booklet is better than the actual Clydeside Expressway's opening booklet.
I would agree with that. Of course, I would say that. But it's also the longest booklet we've released in terms of pages. There's 20 pages in this one, and it's filled with lots of facts, figures, loads of new information, and the photographs, well, there's a lot of very good photographs in there.
And what's so good about it is that it is an area that's transformed so much.
Oh yes, massive changes to the Clydeside Expressway in its lifetime, and I think that's all worth talking about, just like we've done before.
It's very worth talking about. So are there big banners over the expressway just now? Celebrating
Sadly,
its 50th?
Not. A route that doesn't get much appreciation.
Doesn't get much credit, you're absolutely right.
But does a hell of a job.
Yes.
And keeps the city moving very well.
That's what interests me, because I remember saying to you, I feel like it's the other M8. In some ways, it does that kind of east to west movement, just north of the Clyde.
Yeah.
You know?
And we're going to talk a bit about that and the role that it fulfills and how it functions. And it has one or two issues. We won't shy away from that. No. But we'll talk about how it all came to be.
Are we no holds barred with this one?
No, not at all. Not at all. We'll be honest up front and give our views on what we think about it.
Okay.
But yeah, again, I think we thought it was important to celebrate the anniversary on its own, because we also have the Clyde Tunnel anniversary, the 60th, coming up in the summer. And we could have combined the two and had a sort of single event, but that wouldn't do
I don't think it would do either of them justice. No. It's good to keep this separate, and that way we can, focus our discussions.
Well, anyway, I've got reams of information here in front of me.
Where do you start?
Website, opening booklet, our booklet, anything. Where do we start? Right, so we start at the beginning. Yeah. Right? So, like all roads in Glasgow built after the Second World War, the Clydeside Expressway has its origins in a highway plan for Glasgow. Finalised 1963, published 1965.
Yeah.
It had two main purposes, this road. Like a lot of roads in the highway plan, it wasn't just a distributor, it was also a bypass. So it was envisaged that this route that would snake along the north bank of the Clyde would act firstly as a bypass of Glasgow's West End, a very nice area. It was in the 1960s, it still is today.
To east.
Yeah,
okay.
West to east, east to west, whatever way you want. Fine. So it was recognised that a lot of people in the far west of the city, Yoker, Clydebank, Dundalk, all these sorts of places.
Yeah, Scotstoun.
Yeah, people looking to make journeys, connect with the wider motorway system that was planned, or indeed get to the central area, the city centre for work or whatever, that there needed to be some way
a
to
high
get
quality
that traffic,
route.
That took them off Dumbarton Road, because at Partick Cross and up the far west end of Dumbarton Road at Broomhill, and at Finniston and places like that, they were very busy. It was a main route, the A814, Dumbarton Road, still fairly busy, but certainly nothing like it was pre-expressway. And they thought, right, we need to get traffic off of here. But you know what? We also have an opportunity, because we've built this nice new Clyde Tunnel, and we're building these nice high-quality approach roads on either side of the river, wouldn't it make sense if we provided a link on the north side of the Clyde from the tunnel to the inner ring road at Anderston?
Well, that's easy, Stuart. You send everyone up Crow Road and on to Great Western Road.
Well, exactly, and that's exactly what would have happened if this expressway type road hadn't been put in that particular corridor.
Because that actually serves a kind of different purpose or area, although it's a similar direction.
Exactly.
Yeah. So this one, as the name suggests, Clydeside, it was going to be close to the river.
Yeah, because again, they recognised that even then, even in the early to mid-60s, a lot of the heavy industry had started to close. And there were a number of brownfield sites. And it was starting to become clear that there was a bit of a corridor that they could squeeze it in. So there was a lot of old docks there, like the Prince's Dock and you know, where the SEC is now and places like that, where they had the idea that they were going to fill them in, right? So in conjunction with that, there was also the railway line, the North Clyde railway line, that was operational. So there was already an existing line.
Yeah, there was, because at that time it was just North Clyde line.
Yeah, there's no... The Argyll line had closed as part of the beaching cut. So
yes.
So I think the Argyll line was still open when the highway plan study started, but it was closed by the time it was published. But by the time they actually started to build the road, they had decided to reopen it. So, you know, it was all the way through, but the allowance was always there for that to reopen. But they clearly realised that there was a sort of obvious line on the map where you could fit in this new road without cutting off existing communities. So, I mean, at the time when the Clydeside Expressway was built, for example, like 90% of it was built to the south of any existing property.
Yeah, it wasn't going right through Partick.
No, or Finniston, or anything like that. There had been some demolition at the far eastern end as part of the Anderston redevelopment, part of the comprehensive development area. There's some property clearance there. But the dual carriageway, that side was actually built as part of Kingston Bridge. And at the far western end, the White Inch interchange had been built, obviously, and that allowed for a future connection.
So that
to the
was
expressway.
1969.
Yeah.
And obviously the inner ring road section near Anderston was about 1970.
Yeah.
That was done.
So the Clydeside Expressway was considered important, so much so that it was included within the Target 1 schemes of the Highway Plan. Now, you remember the Highway Plan podcast we did fairly recently.
Yeah.
We spoke about how there were 3 delivery targets to be spread over the period from 1965 to 1990. Clydeside Expressway was considered important enough to be in the top 5 schemes. So, like the North and West flanks of the Inner Ring Road, Clydeside Expressway, and the motorway across from Hillington out to Bales, all Target 1. So the corporation held it in fairly high regard. So much so that they appointed Sir William Halcrow and Partners as consulting engineers on the project in September 1967. So that is actually quite early.
Okay, so let's go back to the highway plan. Scott Wilson, of course, put together. Scott Wilson, Kirkpatrick and Partners done the highway plan.
Yeah, and all the geometric studies and things that came with that, where the roads go, what they should look like.
Okay, that's fine. And then, but then Halcrow came to have another look at this when they decided that, you know, this is one of the target routes.
So when Scott Wilson did their study, they put the line on the map and said, this is where this road should go. This makes sense. They didn't go into a lot of detail of what the junctions and things should be like. However, they were fairly clear that it was envisaged that the intermediate junctions at Finniston, Ferry Road, Partick, and at Sawmill, at the far west end, should be signalised.
Like at grade?
At grade. So they would be crossroads, basically.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't have flyovers.
That's not very expressway-like.
No, it's not at all. But so when Halcrow came in, and they started looking at the road and looking at the traffic flows. The traffic flow data had been revised as part of the Greater Glasgow Transportation Study and things like that. And he said, well, you know, actually, you're going to get a bit more traffic in this than you probably realise. And the Clydeside Expressway is scheduled for completion several years before the M8 between Kingston Bridge and Hillington is finished. So for a spell of time, a lot of traffic is going to be using this as a main route, you know, from the west to the east of the city and vice versa. So they recommended that there be some grade separation included. So at Finniston and Sawmill, they proposed 2 fairly compact grade separated junctions with an overpass. Okay, duplicate design, nice and simple. And at Partick, there was going to be a junction in cutting, so sitting below the level of the adjacent properties to shield it screen it from view, basically. At Ferry Road, however, where there was a roundabout for many years, They decided to keep the roundabout because it was the easiest way to get the long vehicles in and out of York Hill Quay, which was still very much operational at that time. Okay, and there was
that does make sense.
Yeah, and there was also another at-grade junction on the expressway. I don't know if you remember this one, and it did exist for quite a few years. It was only closed.
Is this one near the SEC?
It's a bit further east than that, just towards York Hill. It was a fire access.
Oh, okay, so it wasn't a normal kind of regular access. Because I know they opened the barrier up for the SEC at certain times.
Yeah. So that fire junction was actually there for years. It only was removed when the alterations were made round about the Partick area, which we'll talk about later. So there was another one in there. So that was really the first thing that Halcrow recommended.
And Finniston.
So that's fine. Corporation said, okay, fair enough. Following the general principles of the design of the motorways in Glasgow, they didn't want these huge sprawling interchanges like you would see in America. They wanted things that fitted within...
and two-level.
Yeah, exactly. We were doing compact grade-separated junctions in Glasgow decades before England or other parts of the country were looking at them. Grade-separated junctions in a compact way are really the norm now for a lot of roads, because they save a lot of money and they save a lot of space.
Yeah.
In Glasgow, they were doing that from day one.
Yeah.
And the Clydeside Expressway is a fantastic example of compact GSJs, as they would refer to them.
Yeah.
Anyway, Halcrow. They confirmed that the road should be a dual carriageway, all-purpose, not a motorway. Not felt that it was that important. There would be a number of other motorways in the city that would handle the strategic traffic. The expressway was seen more as a kind of local regional distributor.
Yeah.
Okay.
Rather than a kind of overall strategic thing that required a blue line.
Yeah. And surprisingly, it's actually only 3.5 kilometres long. So just a couple of miles. I don't know, it feels longer than that.
It does feel longer than that, but sometimes you might be thinking, is that including the White Inch section as well? Might be is that, you say the first part of it in the east was actually done as part of the Inner Ring Road contract.
Yeah.
So looking at these things, it certainly does feel longer.
It does.
You're questioning that opening booklet now.
Yeah,
right? Is this a typo? I think maybe they were only just getting to grips with the metric system then, Stuart. So it could be typographical.
I'm reading here about some of the restraints and things that they had to deal with. Again, the Clyde Port Authority's future intentions for Queen's Dock and York Hill Quay. I might have said Prince's Dock. That might be the one in the south side. I don't know my docks in Glasgow. There'll be people screaming at the microphone.
Well,
the
you've got to listen to the Scottish Dock podcast for that.
So it's probably right. By this time they knew that the Argyll line was probably going to reopen at Finniston, and there was an old tunnel there.
GTS recommended it.
So within their overall design, they allowed for that as well. There were a number of structures and things that were going to be required. So we spoke about the overpasses, but there are a number of retaining walls and other bridges and things that had to be planned and had to be built at the same time. So just the easiest of schemes to build, particularly when you're squeezing into old brownfield sites and the like. Anyway, needless to say, by the time it got to 1970, the design work was complete. They knew where the road was going to go. And actually, I should a point to make that Halcrow made a very slight adjustment to the alignment of the road roundabout Partick to save the old fire station at Partick that you can see from the road to the north. So by putting a slight curve in the road, they were able to maintain that building and a number of other ones. So again, looking to refine the design just to try and maintain property, not cause too much disruption.
Yeah.
And again, allowances were made for some of the comprehensive development areas that were planned at the Partick end as well.
And it's stuck close to the railway line.
Very close. Very close. Yeah. I mean, you see the arches along much of the length of the railway when you're zipping along at York Hill.
Yeah.
So it made sense. Let's squeeze this in here.
To reduce severance.
Reduce severance, you're right. Ultimately,
there wasn't much severance anyway, because we're talking about brownfield sites and stuff like that.
Yeah. The construction contract was only valued at 3.5 million, which is like nowadays nothing. I think we worked out in the booklet that was 40 to 50 million today, and it was let to our old favourite Balfour Beatty and Company. So a renowned contractor, even at that point. And the contract was envisaged to take around 3 years to construct. Amazingly, construction began in 1971, spring 1971, and was completed in April 1973. They actually completed a year ahead of schedule.
That's what you can do without having to worry about traffic management.
Exactly. And that was despite the national economic situation and industrial disputes and various other things that were in the go. So it was completed well ahead of schedule.
Well, props to the contractor there.
Yeah. Now, there's a bit of an anomaly along the line of the expressway. Think of a big bridge on the expressway that you cross
Point House Road Bridge.
Exactly. Now,
Yes.
did you know that that was not built at the same time as the expressway?
Oh, yes, of course. Now, I'm thinking of the current site. We've actually got 2 bridges there now. But I understand that this one that was actually done as like an advance contract, an advance work to get this bridge in. Am I correct?
That's right. Absolutely right.
Yeah.
Again, corporation, for some reason, very keen to move forward with the expressway. And like we've spoken about before, in the old days, they would do advance contracts. So they had a bit of money available. Let's do this wee piece, do that wee piece. And then when we've got the money, it's much easier just to slot the road in.
Yeah.
So there
it still happens now.
It does.
With the rail bridge up north that was moved for the A9.
It does. Not just so common for road schemes as it used to be, but certainly they did that. So in 1967-68, they actually delivered a scheme designed by the city engineer and his department, let to H.M. Murray and Company Limited. They actually delivered the Point House Bridge. So that was actually in operation for a spell before the expressway proper.
As a kind of local route, just like
so
a street going over that.
You had this bridge across the Kelvin and a tie-in to local roads on either side, and that was there for a few years. So that was a good way. That was a good way of getting some expense, up front, because that bridge would have been
seen as one of the major structures along with Sawmill and Finniston.
Exactly. So that was all delivered in advance. You're a fan of reading bits from the old booklet.
I love doing that.
Yeah. And just like we said here, this is very 1960s language and the way that this is put across. So it says, in the case of Ferry Road Junction, the consultants were of the opinion that the introduction of the grade-separated junction at Hayburn Street diminished the usefulness of a junction with Ferry Road. As the Port Authority wished to continue to operate Yorkhill Quay as a container dock, it would be necessary for long vehicles from the dock to join the expressway at Ferry Road. The traffic envisaged was not high, and as a light-controlled junction would impose delays on the major expressway volumes, a roundabout junction was proposed as a satisfactory interim solution, which could be readily modified without undue difficulty should land use of Yorkhill Quay alter with the passage of time. Goodness.
What a great bit of foresight that was in some ways, because we know where this is going.
Yeah. So, the expressway operated in that way for many years. And if you want to see the original alignment in the booklet, you see the map of how it was, and you just roundabout slap bang in the middle. Now, Ferry Road roundabout, for a time, was the Sheriff Hall of the West. For people, and I think
still calling it the Sheriff Hall.
Were you a regular user of?
No, I moved to Glasgow in 2007.
Right, so you don't recall the joys
not
of
really.
Ferry Road.
I don't really remember this. And at the time, I don't think I was driving around that area.
It was a hot spot for congestion.
Now, it was a small roundabout, wasn't it?
It was, and I don't imagine there was much traffic. There was no traffic turning right, because there was no access to the right. And by that point, there was nothing going in and out of Yorkhill Quay. So I think it was just the fact that there was a roundabout and traffic was slowing down for and then moving off from again, And I think that really was the main issue. In fact, the next time you're driving across the Point House Bridge, look down at the road surface and you will see the old yellow bar markings that highlighted the approach to the roundabout. Some of them are still there, still visible. Okay. So they build it. They use these nice economic designs for the overpasses. So Finniston and Sawmill are basically identical. One's slightly longer than the other.
Yeah, but it's the same type of structure.
In practice, they're basically the same.
Very impressive underneath.
I like them.
Yeah, you're a fan of them. And they've nestled in the station under there quite well.
And they have aged very well for 1960s, 1970s structures. They are very, very, very good. Looking from below. Like all of the Glasgow roads and motorway projects, the aesthetic was considered a very important aspect of the project. And there's a high quality finish on the retaining walls. So the retaining walls finish, again, like in parts of the inner ring road, they've got cladding on them, and it matches the Clyde Tunnel style, which is good.
Yeah.
They used high mast lighting at certain locations at the west and east end to floodlight it rather than having multiple light columns.
I know they have them at Anderston.
We had these stunning old style lighting columns in the central reservation with a double head, with the curved heads at the top.
Oh yeah, they're tremendously 70s. Yeah.
Yep. So they had them running down the centre. It's fantastic. You'll see them in some of the photos. The parapets and things like that, all painted to the same colours as the inner ring road, all colour matched.
White box beam everywhere. Yep.
Same with the barriers, things like that. Cobblestones around the bases of
so it was
gantries and things.
Well.
It was landscaped very well.
And what else did it have?
It had sign gantries.
Yes. So when you get to that.
Yep, it had.
They had them from the start,
yes,
didn't it? Yeah.
They were not erected as part of the main contract.
Okay.
But was basically what they did? They built the road opened, and then they added the sign gantries progressively over a few months, which was standard practice at the time. They did the same in the Monkland motorway. I think parts of the north flank of the ring road were the same. Actually, the gantries came after parts of it had opened. Not the Woodside section, but certainly the Townhead section. So that was just kind of the way they did it at that time. They had the downward pointing arrow on at all times for the first few years, and then they were connected to Strathclyde Regional Council SITRAC traffic control system in the 80s. And that system continued to operate until last year, sadly. And it's
you're joking.
In the process of being decommissioned.
That's right. So, wait, we're going backwards?
We're going backwards, I'm afraid.
We're going backwards.
We're going backwards, I'm afraid. If you drive in the expressway today and you look where the signals used to be, you'll now just see grey panels because that work has been getting done over the last while.
Yeah.
There's sadly no money to continue to maintain it or upgrade it. So they've taken the decision to remove the signals for now, but they could be put back at some point in the future should.
Well, I suppose, because it is handy if somebody breaks down. It's not exactly got hard shoulders on it.
Exactly. Okay, where am I? What were we talking about?
We were talking about. This is what happens. You've spoken about gantries and you've just gone into a haze.
Exactly.
We were speaking about some of the architectural things that happened with the road and the gantries that came along with it that were done after the road opened.
Yeah, exactly. It is quite an attractive road to look at points.
I think so, but it's also attractive to what you see from it. I think it's epic when you're driving along it, what you can see, because of what has come as a result of it.
And that has been through its entire life. So if you go back to when it opened in the early 70s, the granaries, the big grain stores at the far western end out towards Partick at South Street, they were stunning, huge big buildings. And I remember when they were there, and then they get demolished. But then other things have cropped up, modern developments that are just as stunning. So thinking about the Hydro.
The Hydro.
That was there. The SEC's been there since 1985.
And the Crown Plaza.
The Crown Plaza, and then the Armadillo came along.
Yeah, and across, I know this is across the water, but you get a view of the Science Centre.
Yeah, BBC Scotland, and STV, these things at Pacific Quay. And then there's flats and residential properties.
Glasgow Harbour development.
The Riverside Museum, the tall ship.
Yeah.
It's a stunning road to drive along because of what you can see from it.
Yes.
And although the character has changed over the last 50 years from a more industrial feel to a more modern, vibrant, leisurely type feel.
The Riverside Museum.
Yeah. There's still a lot to look at. And it's a great road for that.
So what happened was, I remember we were talking about Ferry Road Roundabout. They did make some good aesthetic improvements to the expressway in the 2008 job where they removed Ferry Road Roundabout. Another bridge was installed. And thus that junction was grade separated.
Yeah.
Now along there, and we can talk a bit about that job. I don't know if we've got some facts and figures to hand, but they put in feature lighting.
Yes, they did under the bridges.
Is it purple?
Purple blue colour, yeah.
Yeah, purple blue through there. Does that still work? I'm not sure if you've been through that.
It's on and off. I've seen it on recently, but I've also seen it off recently. So yeah,
because I think that makes it look really good.
It does.
They also put in a footbridge there, didn't they? Because is not footbridge. It's kind of the Hayburn Street interchange, which is for Partick.
So I mean, you go. Pedestrian movements, fairly important thing in an urban area. Obviously, even
it has
then.
a footbridge near the SEC.
Yeah, near the SEC, the old whiskey bond place with the clock.
Yes.
Is that now a whiskey? Whatever it is.
It is. Yeah.
In fact, that used to be something to do with the Port Authority or something, that building.
Yeah.
Something like that. Again, people will be screaming at their devices going, "Not such and such."
I work there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
So it's a nice feature. The whole redevelopment there was considered quite important as they sought to redevelop around about the Glasgow Harbour project. I mean, I think most of that area had lain empty for a while. And then obviously private developers were coming in, Glasgow Harbour, the big blocks there with the flats and things. And then the City Council decided they wanted to have the Riverside Museum, so the Transport Museum when it moved from Kelvin Hall to there. So that was that a £70 million development there?
Yeah, it was. It was a huge job, and it was done around about the turn of the decade.
Yeah.
I remember that.
So it was like
the junction was 2008.
Yeah, so I actually got a site visit to the junction when it was under construction. That was Farron's Construction, who built that, the Northern Irish contractor. I think it was Atkins who did the design for that on behalf of the City Council. Like you say, we had a new footbridge, a couple of new road bridges. The Partick junction was changed slightly, but an additional grade separated junction went in, removing the ferry road roundabout.
So this was now an uninterrupted trip all the way from the Clyde Tunnel to Anderston.
And those pedestrian movements we were talking about, actually, even back in the beginning, that was important. So we had the footbridge at the building with the clock, and we also had 8 underpasses built as well originally. Most of them at the far west end.
Yeah, because you wouldn't know they were there. Yeah. They're very well blended in.
I think one of them was capped off by the alterations at Partick. Remember when we were doing Your Then and Now photos a while back? We saw it was next to the car wash at the BP petrol station.
Yeah.
And you could see that there's only what used to be an underpass is now.
Yeah, they were using it as a car valeting bay.
They were using it as a bay.
It's because, of course, that bridge was provided as part of the 2008 works. So it kind of means people can seamlessly get across the expressway to the flats and other things at the other side.
Yeah.
Do you know, I mean, I don't know what there is more to say in the 2008 job, but the thing about the expressway that I don't like is either end of it, how it stops. I've always felt that this is a route that should continue further west and link to Clydebank properly, thus relieving Great Western Railway. As soon as you get past, like, Victoria Park Drive South, which is ultimately where you end up, and it gets to the traffic lights. That's end of expressway, kind of from that point, and it's pretty woeful going all the way up Dumbarton Road. I do wish it went further.
Yeah, and you'll remember that there was proposals for a number of years for a Yoker Relief Road that I think that was going to utilise the old railway.
It's going to use the old railway line along South Street.
Of course, the original plan in the GGTS was to continue the dual carriageway along Dumbarton Road. Now, much of it has been dualled already, particularly in the Dumbartonshire County Council area. You're up to the Glasgow boundary. That whole
Clydebank area is okay. Yeah. It's just kind of, as you get past, there's a junction called Scotstoun Cross. Which can be really busy, because I used to use it quite a lot. Going through there. But no, could you imagine a fully grade separated route, going all the way to Clydebank? It would make things a lot quicker.
Yeah, it would have done, but certainly not going to happen now.
No.
Yeah.
We can but dream.
Yeah. Would you like a synopsis of the overall work carried out on the job? We like to read from the old booklets. It's always good. So I mentioned earlier, we had 3.5 kilometres of dual 7.3 metre wide carriageways. We had 1.9 kilometres of 6 metre wide slip roads. Okay. 2.2 kilometre length of existing street reconstruction. So that's a fair amount.
That's like things underneath in the flyovers. Yeah.
We had 2 grade separated intersections, as we mentioned. 1 grade separated intersection with the expressway in Cutting, so at Partick. So the first 2, obviously, the overpass. 1 at grade roundabout. 415 metres of dual carriageway viaducts. 1 road bridge reduced and widened over a railway in service. Okay. We also had 110 metre long reinforced concrete tunnel for the future railway. So that obviously became the Argyll line. 1.3 kilometres of single track railway diversion. Now that was at the western end. I think most of that railway's now gone. 8 pedestrian underpasses, 1 pedestrian footbridge. And 80 metres of an existing railway tunnel re-roofed while in service. So
that's very impressive.
A fair amount of work. All in all, pretty impressive job. Corporation were very proud of it. They sent along the Provost and his wife, Mrs. Mary Gray. The Provost at that time was William Gray, Right Honourable William Gray. And Thomas Fulton, who was the highways convener at that time, he was there as well. He was sort of driving force behind a lot of the highway plan stuff, particularly in those early days. And it was very well attended, the opening day. In the booklet, you'll see a photo of the Lady Provost actually planting a tree just after the ribbon cutting had been carried out. So, a big event. Not a Scottish office level big motorway opening event, because it was...
no, it's kind of overshadowed by some of the other big things going on. It was very much a local thing.
A local thing. A lot of celebration with local schools and things like that as well, because they saw this as a big thing. And like I mentioned, earlier. So when the expressway was completed, we had this line along the north bank of the Clyde, so you could come through the Clyde tunnel. So at that point, the M8 had been constructed as far as Hillington, coming in from the west on the Renfrew bypass. So you had a short hop along the A8, just where Braehead is now. You could then have taken the Shield Hall overpass junction, and then nip through the tunnel, and then followed the Clydeside Expressway to the Inner Ring Road, which by that time was complete from Kingston Bridge round to Townhead.
Rudimentary sort of way of getting to the motorway network. Yeah,
and it takes us back to those descriptions and discussions and chats we had back in the Highway Plan podcast about how they always built sections that were going to bring the maximum benefit at any one time. Yeah. So they tended in Glasgow not to build remote sections of road that weren't connected to other things. There was always a bit of logic behind what was finished first. So they were like, the Renfrew motorway is not going to be complete until at least 1975, 1977. So we'll get the expressway in 1970, 72, 73. There's 4 years where traffic will be able to skip through the tunnel and get back to the Inner Ring Road, relieving traffic from Paisley Road West.
Paisley Road West and Great Western Road.
And Paisley Road West saw a huge reduction in traffic at that point. Now, we have to bear in mind, just like today, even then, a lot of strategic traffic going between the west of the country and the east of the country and vice versa.
Was on streets.
It was all on street. It was all converging near or just outside the city centre. By providing these new links, they were getting all that strategic traffic, through traffic, off those roads, away from the residential areas, and onto these new spine roads and distributor roads and bypasses.
Providing environmental improvement for the people who live
That's
there.
right. So Paisley Road West was immediately relieved of a lot of traffic, as was Dumbarton Road and Partick Cross, which had been chronic, Byers Road, all these sorts of places. Still busy routes today, but certainly not as bad as they were or they would be, if the expressway hadn't come along. Yeah. So, like a lot of roads in Glasgow, it worked very well for many, many years. However, as traffic continued to grow and exceeded the original targets of the highway plan that were projected for 1990 and eventually 2000, we are way beyond those levels now, and that has created some operational problems with the road, i.e. congestion. Now, I'm talking about Anderston Cross.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, is that the fault of the expressway, so to speak? Or is that the fault of the Anderston Cross junction being so busy?
It's a fault of a wider problem. Now, again,
with other routes not being built.
So from the highway plan, we get 50% of the routes. So there is more traffic using the Clydeside Expressway than there probably should have been.
There's more traffic using what was built of the Inner Ring Road than should have been.
Exactly. So I remember we spoke to John Cullen about this, about why the expressway to Ring Road connection is only grade separated or free flow for traffic looking to go onto or from the Kingston Bridge.
Yes, that's right.
And the reason for that was that the through traffic that was coming from the west, so say you were coming from Clydebank and you were heading to Edinburgh, it was envisaged by the designers of the highway plan that you would go south over the Kingston Bridge and then use the south and east flanks of the Inner Ring Road to travel east. You would not have used the Charing Cross section.
Yeah.
Because the Charing Cross section, as we've said many, many times, was only for small local traffic
connecting
movements.
between Expressway and Mary Hill and so on. But the other thing is at the west is you would have probably taken the North Link and Lomond.
Exactly.
What you're trying to say basically is that because these other kind of routes around about the region were not built, that's probably why we end up with a situation on the expressway.
So the Clyde Tunnel suffers unfairly as a result of things that weren't built anywhere else. So there's a lot more traffic looking to turn left and join the west flank of the Ring Road and go north around the M8 out towards the east. People don't go south in the Kingston Bridge because there's no direct connection to the M74 and a whole raft of other things that have come since. Yeah. So that's really the only part of the expressway that doesn't work well. I mean, Finniston Junction has been remodelled.
That's now a massive gyratory, isn't it, that goes round. So
busy when events are coming out of the.
But I think I do think it's a bit of a masterstroke what they've done there. With we can't just leave this as a simple diamond interchange. No. We're going to have some kind of one-way system to get everyone around.
And that works fairly well. In my experience?
Yeah, I think it's one of these things that's a bit hard to navigate if you're not sure. I mean, I used to work in the Sky Park building, which, I had to kind of use this system, but, when you use it a few times, it's fine.
Yeah.
So,
And the other parts of the expressway, I think, tend to work very well. So around about Partick with the new junctions, they're okay, a lot of traffic signals, but it tends to work okay.
I find that junction at Sawmill Road, which a lot of people also call the Partick junction, the one with the big flyover.
Yeah.
I always find that really all right, to be honest with you. It never seems to be hugely busy. and I'm able to get on there. The only thing is, of course, you're getting towards Clyde Tunnel territory with the kind of mergers that you have there, which can be a bit dicey.
Yeah. Anything you would like to ask about the Clydeside Expressway?
Well, here's one that blew my mind. It's not even about the expressway, but it's about that Sky Park building.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the Sky Park building, looking at it as this modern kind of white steel and glass structure, was built year 2000, clearly.
No, it was built before the Clydeside Expressway. It's the Clydeview Centre.
The Clydeview Centre, because I noticed in a picture, I'm like, what's that doing there? But it was actually reclad, wasn't it? And now it looks like any modern large building.
Yeah, significantly refurbished.
But it's another good-looking structure along the way.
Mm-hmm.
So
it is. There's a whole raft of things in that corridor that are not just nice to look at.
Would you agree, Stuart, that the Clydeside Expressway has been a benefit, not just for Glasgow, but maybe just for the Riverside, West End?
Undoubtedly.
Okay.
Undoubtedly, because prior to the expressway, there was no road access along that part of the city, other than local connections here and there.
But does it continue to be our benefit to this day?
Clearly.
Given changing landscapes and how we want to get about?
Yes. I mean, surely the benefits to Dumbarton Road alone justify its existence.
Okay, so let's imagine it was closed, or it's not there. Where would this traffic go? What would effect would that have on the amenities that are fed by the expressway?
We have a recent example that we can call upon. During COP26, the conference in Glasgow, the expressway was closed, remember, for a few weeks to allow for the COP26 conference at the Hydro. Yeah,
of course.
And
how did that go?
At the time, now we were still within COVID a bit at the time. Traffic flows were still a bit down on where they were pre-COVID or where they're back to now. But there was a significant increase in traffic observed on Dumbarton Road and on the M8 because traffic that would normally come through the tunnel and head east was basically left on the M8. So traffic actually increased there. And on Paisley Road West and in some of the other surface streets that you maybe initially wouldn't think would be directly affected by the closure of it, you know. Of course, there was a lot of media advertising as well, which meant people kind of stayed away.
That's sometimes the best way to manage these things is talk about it, and everybody thinks, actually, let's think again about making this journey. Yeah,
but I think if you were closing that in the long term, right, and people started to return to the roads in that area, because people are still going to want to go from Clydebank and Yoker and places like that to the city centre, just to connect to the motorway system. They are going to find ways of doing that, and that is definitely going to snag up Dumbarton Road.
I think it would have a
Partick Cross.
Finiston would suffer because you get rat running through there.
And that would be a shame because these areas have actually become quite nice in recent years. There's been a lot of investment in Finiston and at Partick Cross.
Because you don't have, some kind of 40-ton wagon going
exactly.
down the street.
You don't have thousands of heavies going up there every day because they're on the expressway or they're on the motorway.
Or all these cars or whatever.
Yeah. And it means the buses can flow better. They can, they're more reliable and things like that. It's a road that seems to have it's come in for targeting from.
I have noticed it's appeared on the radar of a certain group of people with an agenda to, that's gonna say, vandalise the city's infrastructure through certain means, political means. And it's just us speaking about it now and looking at all the things that have come about as a result of the expressway. These things wouldn't be there without it. You know what I mean?
No, so, like I was saying, there was no direct east-west road in that corridor prior to the expressway. And all those empty docks and all those yards and all the rest of that closed down. The access from the expressway to areas led to the SEC, the Riverside Museum, Glasgow Harbour, and all these other developments that have.
And I don't buy the severance argument.
Neither do I, because the road, 90% of the road, 95% of the road runs beside the railway line. So it was that severance was already there.
So if you're gonna say, oh, it's to remove it, it would unlock potential at the riverfront. Yeah, I'm sorry, but you'd have to remove the railway line as well.
Yeah, exactly. And visually, it's not an unappealing road. It has a 50 mile an hour speed limit on it. Actually, the first few years that it was open, it operated with a 40 mile an hour speed limit. Just to point that out, a lot of people might not remember that.
There's a very rare example of a speed limit being raised.
Yeah, of it going up. So it effectively gets traffic from, one part of the city to the other. And I've seen regional bus services use it. Buses going to the hospital and to Clydebank and parts of Dumbartonshire.
Well, this is the other thing: is the new hospital, of course, is
that's been a huge traffic generator.
Yeah, the expressway serves that as well.
It does, just as the tunnel does. So yeah, I think it's got a key role to play in the city's road system as it is. It doesn't upset anyone. It's not built through historic landscapes or next to nice fancy big buildings or anything like that. Everything that's next to the expressway basically sprung up as a result of the expressway.
Yeah,
and
they're all great things.
That's it. They're all great things.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like we'll just close the expressway. All right. Well, how do we get people from out with the city centre to the hydro, or do we just say, oh well, you know what, we don't want people from Lanarkshire or Dumbartonshire coming to the hydro anymore. We only want it for West Enders. Yeah. From people from the city. Well, people who can walk there.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but
but
it's just not realistic.
The hydro is not just a Glasgow pool, but it's a national pool.
How many times have we said it? We are a conurbation, a city region, as the phraseology that likes to, that seems to be used.
A metropolitan area. Yes.
And people have to consider that.
Well, do you know what, Stuart? Let's decree it then that the expressway is a good thing, and it should probably stay. It should definitely stay.
50th anniversary Clydeside Expressway. You won't get a lot of love elsewhere, but the Scottish Roads Archive
will always give you love.
Will give you the love, and that's why we've released.
And hopefully, the people listening to this will come to learn a few things about it and appreciate it.
And we've refreshed our webpage as well. Go on there for a look. ScottishRoadsArchive.org/Clydeside-Expressway.
Yeah.
Now, what else do I need to tell you? So I've told you about the booklet. Get online, get on our merchandise page, get one of them bought. They are limited. This is not getting a full run like the Kingston Bridge and others had. Yeah. This is a strictly limited edition booklet. Once they're gone, they're gone.
Use it to complete your collection, I suppose, if you've got quite a few.
Continue the collection. The proceeds from that booklet obviously go to the running costs of the Scottish Roads Archive. They keep us online. They mean we can record this podcast. Recording this podcast is not free. Hosting the podcast is not free. There is a charge. And we need to be able to pay that. So all these things help. So thank you for that. And on that note, we really should thank our sponsors.
Yes.
HBS Scotland.
Yep. Thank you to Nigel and the team, and also to Eastford Excavations.
And Andy and the team there.
Absolutely.
So thanks to those guys for the ongoing support, and for you guys, of course, for following us and for listening. The podcast is more popular now than it has ever been. We are very
I think that's
close
down to some of my subjects.
Oh, it would be. It would be.
Very popular. Thank you.
And I think we're fast approaching, actually, the 50,000th download. Yeah, 50,000.
Surely we have to have a podcast celebrating the 50,000th download, and then,
that would have coincided nicely with the 50th anniversary of the Clydeside Expressway.
It's a bit meta, but okay.
Yeah. Okay, as always, you will hear all these podcasts, more than 50 episodes, in fact, online, anywhere you find podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Podbean.
And YouTube.
And YouTube as well, of course. Leave reviews. Reviews are good. That gets us noticed. It gets us a bit of advertising. If you like what you hear, you enjoy listening to John and I moan every month. Then
educate,
that's the word. Go online, leave us a review.
Yeah, and don't forget about social media as well. We're loving the interactions, love the comments, and I just hope you guys enjoy the content. So go on Facebook, go on Instagram, go on Twitter, and follow us there to get your daily fix.
Yeah, just a reminder, just on the social media, we've had a couple of comments recently where people have complained that the content is too Glasgow-centric. I guess...
I've seen these as well, but people must remember that I suppose that's where we've come from originally, but we're branching into the rest
just
of
a reminder that we were the Glasgow Motorway Archive for many years, and we only last year became the Scottish Roads Archive. So, of course, the vast majority of our content is Glasgow-centric, but we are diversifying.
We are. And I like that people are hungry for more stuff around Scotland, and we are getting so much material coming in. It does take us some time to process this stuff.
And we have some Scotland-centric podcasts coming up, don't we?
You're going to love the next few ones if you're...
Say no more. Say no more. We won't ruin the surprise. So they're all coming up as well. So, definitely worth sticking with us for that. Cool. But in the meantime, John, I think that's enough.
That's us.
Happy birthday, Clydeside Expressway. Here's to another 50 years.
Hopefully.
Yes. Hopefully. Fingers crossed. And if you want to know more, check out the website. Buy a booklet.
The best way. Stuart, I think it's been a good one. Thank you very much.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye.